What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jordan. This is the Fully Vetted Show, and I'm sitting with Billy Collins.
That's me.
And Matt Dodge behind the computer.
That'd be the Doge.
And we're going to do a reaction video on military movies that have an individual who's done something specifically
One individual
important.
that stands out.
Yeah, like an individual effort kind of thing. Somebody in some sort of conflict has done something above and beyond, almost like a Medal of Honor level moment where somebody has done something that warrants somebody's attention on their actions and what they've done.
Stand out
Yeah.
performance.
Yes.
Also-
The MVP.
Also in a non-combat style thing.
Right.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I feel like some of the ones you pulled up, it's like it's mid-combat.
Well, there's
but
combat happening around, but
they're not just
that's
going
not
around,
the focus.
like,
of it.
like just murking people. So, first clip we've got is a scene from Band of Brothers, and it's this kind of like the story of Ronald Spears,
Right.
Who was kind of portrayed in this movie as the hero. This is his scene, so I want to see the clip because I haven't actually watched this yet. I've seen Band of Brothers, obviously, but I haven't actually seen this clip in a long time.
Band of Brothers, it's a series, so there's so much
Yeah,
going
there's
on.
a lot, yeah.
It's hard to pinpoint one, but this in particular to me stood out because it's just a badass scene.
Yeah.
So that's why I kind of picked this.
And I don't know.
For anyone who has watched it, this is the guy who famously offered the cigarettes to the soldiers and then ended up killing them. And there was like a future scene where they were talking about it in the trench. He said, "Hey, you guys want a cigarette?" And they're like, "No, we don't want the cigarette."
I know what that means. I don't
Although,
want that shit.
I feel like Spears is the same guy that would be at a party and be the one that jumps off the rooftop into a pool.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just kind of guy.
The one that breaks the
I
folding
figured
table.
it was.
Yeah.
So, let's go ahead and play
Let's
the
see
scene.
it. Yeah, let's see
Okay,
it.
Ready?
It's just a funny point.
Sherman tank? Is that
There must be a Sherman, right? I wish we could tag the guy that.
Oh, no, right?
I think that's Donnie Wahlberg.
It is.
It is? I don't know how he slipped into this movie. It's like no cover at all.
At that point right there, did you see the Germans just like, what kind of shit is this?
What are you doing?
They're like just running through like, what?
So what are we seeing here? What's going on?
So from what I gather, right, so obviously they're pinned behind a wall. You saw somebody that had some blood on his cheek, right, and he kind of made like a motion of taking some shrapnel. And the problem is that one of the rules that we always had in urban combat was you stay an arm's length distance from a wall. Because what happens is if someone shoots at you and they miss you, they miss you. But if they hit that wall, that bullet impact on the wall is going to send shrapnel from the wall out.
But it could be that you guys got that because this is based on World War II. So it could have been like, oh,
Well, and yeah,
they got shot through a wall.
Well, no, but that's the thing is that so every conflict we've had in our military history, we've learned from those conflicts and we've changed our SOPs based on what we learned from previous conflicts.
Right.
You know, and so like when you and honestly, one of the big things when it comes to urban conflict, no one really thinks about that. But like World War II was a lot of urban conflict. There was a lot of everyone's seen movie scenes where you walk through France and there's entire apartment complexes where the wall is missing and you just see people cooking in their kitchen and stuff like that. There was a lot of urban warfare in that, and we learned a lot from that conflict because with it being a conventional war where it's two major superpowers that had tanks and artillery and all those conventional style weapons together in an urban environment, it's so dynamic and it's so there's so many different things that play into urban warfare. And World War II, people don't really think about it as they always think of storming the beaches of Normandy. They think of, open fields, big, but it wasn't. There was a lot of urban warfare that happened, and we learned a lot from that war. And especially like in this scene, in the very beginning of the scene, rounds take place hitting that wall, and he takes an injury from just shit coming off the wall, hitting him in the face from the round impacting the wall.
Yeah, and so the setup for, Lieutenant Spears was actually trying to run through enemy lines, unprotected, unguarded,
No cover.
to get
Yep.
intel so they can, I guess, get coordinates to move forward. I believe that's what the scene is. So
Okay.
we'll keep playing.
Yeah.
That wasn't the really astounding thing.
I mean, he's like in front of their tank.
The Thai company. He came back.
And look at the face of his buddies that were looking at him like, what the fuck? like, look
They're
at
like-
he's like, what?
Kind of
Yeah.
shit.
Which, like, if anything motivates you, it's watching that, right?
And like, look at it's just the look on their faces are just kind of like they're just like,
like,
I can't believe this is happening. I'm seeing this in real time.
yeah. You got like the combat photographer.
So yeah.
So
that-
what was he running to get?
So back then, we had radios, but radios. A lot of radio transmissions happened. We didn't have like wireless communications, right? So you had to actually run a cable from one area to another and link into that cable to receive a transmission.
Why was Spears running? I mean, what was the purpose of him running through enemy lines?
So they needed air support, right? So air support means that they have, I mean, even back then we had fighter jets. And when you're facing tanks or artillery like that, your rifle's not going to stop a tank. So you need some heavy ordnance to try to neutralize at least the biggest threat right now for them was the tanks. I mean, the fact you saw him running like 5 feet in front of a tank. I mean, the beauty is that there's not much a tank can do when you're 5 feet in front of it.
Well, Tom Hanks killed a tank from Saving Private Ryan.
We talked
With
about this.
a 9mm.
We talked about this.
He's like, what?
But the beauty is, if you go back to that scene in Saving Private Ryan with Tom Hanks in the tank, that tank, fighter jet flew over, dropped a bomb, hit the tank, and it was able to allow them some maneuverability so where the ground troops could move into a more advantageous position to start engaging the other ground troops. In this situation, so back then, when you had radios, they were connected through actual cables. I mean, it's crazy to see because even in Vietnam, we had wireless transmission, but certain radios and certain communications had an actual wire-to-wire transmission. And when you go through, I was in California doing a lot of older Marines will understand Mojave Viper. Now it's called ITX. And when you go through the desert in California out there in the training area, there's actual cable that's still run. You run into cable all the time out in the middle of the desert that was used to be used for like com-to-com transmission.
Like in training.
And it's just still out there. Yeah, and it's just still out there.
That's just,
just from the people that had been out there doing things before you.
And people
so
now are like, is that an iPhone charger? What is that? That's the only cable people use.
it's a lot
iPhone
thicker than my
charger.
lightning charger.
I don't understand this.
But
cable.
so I think what was happening is they needed air support and they didn't have comms. And even in modern day military in 2022, when you think of like communications and like you just pick up your iPhone, you call anybody, one of the hardest things, especially in the infantry, is the moment you leave the wire, you have all your radios, everything's set and everything's ready to go. But the first thing to break down is communication. Whether you don't have line of sight from one antenna to another, you're outside of range, you're using old radios that just don't work as good as they did before. So
basically,
he needed,
they didn't have GPS, so he had to get coordinates.
and he had to get in contact with air support to reach them to do some sort of fire mission on these tanks that were pinning them down. They couldn't leave that corner. And I think what ended up happening was one of them, Spears, ended up saying, you know what, whether it's, my guys are here, we're all going to die. We're all going to die. So one of us has to go figure this issue out. We need to get in touch with somebody. And he just decided to make a mad dash for it.
Yeah, and if I'm not the Band of Brothers. Now we do have others on our other movies we're going to be covering, but Band of Brothers is a series that is based on true events. So Matt, can you look up Lieutenant Spears? I know he's got to have some sort of credentials when it comes to his war.
Yeah, I wonder if he got anything. I mean, because this scene, this moment was like one of those things that you think of like this is a Medal of Honor moment,
Right.
where you run into literally to where the enemy's so confused because it's so outside of the ordinary that like I don't know what to do. This guy is just.
You're not supposed to be here.
We're 10
What are you
feet
doing
from each
here?
other. Like, why are you
What
running
are
in
you
front of our
doing?
Yeah, what are you doing? And
I think to me, when the Germans just like I'm baffled that
Yeah,
this guy's running
just
right
like,
by me.
who-
It
it was such a powerful moment that even the enemy was like
taken off guard.
what's happening? Yeah, what is this guy doing? And I'm interested to know maybe some of his awards.
Yeah. So they were from this show's around Easy Company, right?
Yep, Easy Company. That was that was kind of like the main. I know the show Band of Brothers jumps between a lot, but I think Easy Company was kind of like the main effort when it came to that war. Main effort is like in the infantry when you have line companies like these guys. The main effort would be like Easy Company. Now today it would be called Echo Company, and being the main effort, they're the ones conducting the mission. And other facets of the infantry will support them, whether it's like machine guns, mortars, artillery. They support, but the main effort would be Easy Company. And
Tip of the spear.
yeah, and so when you say Easy Company being the main effort, these fighter jets are flying around ready to go. When they call them, they'll come in because the main effort's down there on the ground doing the groundwork, and they have all these assets. And I think that was one of the big things about this scene was that he was trying to get in contact with one of their assets to give them support so the main effort could continue to conduct their mission. Let's go to Ronald Spears's. This is what Wikipedia page. Can you go down to like his accommodations and medals?
Yeah. So I was looking this up while you guys were doing that, and it is it's pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
So it says parachuted into Normandy. Like, I mean, this guy was pretty insane, but
Yeah, okay, so awards and decorations, right? So combat infantry badge is something the Army gives out if you've been to combat. Parachutist badge is 3 combat jump devices, but this guy's got a Silver Star, a Legion of Merit, 3 Bronze Stars, 4 Purple Hearts, an Army Commendation Medal, 2 Presidential Unit Citations. These are campaign medals: American Campaign Medal, European, African, Middle Eastern Campaign Medal, World War II Victory Medal. Everybody that served during World War II got a World War II Victory Medal. It's really cool. My grandfather served in World War II. He was a brigadier general. And I have his ribbon from his World War II Victory Medal, which was really cool.
And what did you just say your dad?
What?
Didn't you say your dad found a medal from your grandfather?
Yeah, so like my dad found his. So on my grandmother's side of the family, my dad just recently dug up a Purple Heart from my grandmother's grandfather from World War One, which I thought was pretty cool. And when you see the medal, he sent me a picture of it, and it is so. I mean, I don't know if it's just from time spent in a box, because usually when all of my medals are all in pristine condition because they're usually worn on a like a dress uniform so they don't get messed up. But this thing looks straight out of World War. It almost looks like he wore it in World War One. But so when you look at medals, right? There's these little they're the Army and Marine Corps have different things. In the Marine Corps we have stars. In the Army they have what I think are like some kind of like an oak leaf for instance, on the Bronze Star, there's these 2 brown circles that you see right here. So when you get a Bronze Star, you get the ribbon. But each of these identifying marks on that signify a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or 5th, depending on how many you have. So if you have 1 Bronze Star, all you're going to have is that Bronze Star ribbon. But if you have 2 Bronze Stars, you wear that ribbon with that marking on the ribbon. So what it means is, look at his Purple Hearts, for instance. There's these 3 logos, correct? We have a Purple Heart +1, +1, +1. So that means that there were 4 instances where he was injured in combat and received a Purple Heart. He has 2 because he has the Presidential Unit Citation, which is the blue and gold ribbon. But with that designator, that means that there was a second one awarded. So instead of wearing 2 of those same ribbons, you get a device on that ribbon that means you've been awarded a second one. So he has 3 Bronze Stars, 4 Purple Hearts, and 2 Presidential Unit Citations.
So are you saying that this guy was a badass?
He's what, like in the military, you would definitely say he's salty.
Keep going down, man.
He's a salty
dude.
dude.
It's pretty amazing.
So an American Campaign Medal, European, African, Middle Eastern Campaign Medal. He has 4 of those. A World War II Victory Medal, Army of Occupation Medal, 2 National Defense Service Medals, 4 Korean Service, which means he served in the Korean War. The Croix de Guerre, which is obviously, I don't know if that like leaf thing means that he has 2, or if that's just the actual ribbon itself. The French Liberation Medal, Republic of Korea Presidential Unit Citation, United Nations Korean Medal, Korean War Service Medal, and a Halal-e-Pakistan, the Crescent of Pakistan, which means this guy not only just served, when we watched this in World War II, in this scene, that was probably the beginning of his service, because he served in Korea, he served in France, he served in Pakistan. I mean, this guy spent some time in, even after this experience.
And can we take a second to just look at the French Liberation Medal for a second?
It's very woke.
That is a...
If anything says French...
Pride Month's been around for a while.
It's that medal. French has been leading the way since before we knew.
I hope somebody's trolling him. But,
That is hilarious.
But I mean, yeah, I think the term the military would have for this guy would be salty. He's a salty dude. He has seen his fair share, not just from World War II, but I mean, European, African, Middle Eastern campaign, which came probably after Korea. Then he's got Korea, the Croix de Guerre with palm, which with palm means something. I'm not sure what that is. But I mean, this guy's been around the world, and he's fought in many different places.
The next movie is Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
And it's a scene where Forrest runs into the jungle to save Bubba, basically, his best friend.
Yeah.
The only person, I guess you would call Forrest kind of simple.
Right.
It's this polite way of saying it. And Bubba was sort of the same. So
stupid
they kind of,
is and stupid does.
they had their little common bond between one another, so
Yeah.
they could relate one
Yeah.
another, but they also had each other's back.
Well, everybody has their best friend.
Right.
And you have a lot of great friends, but everybody has the one guy that's their best friend.
Yeah, and they had been ambushed in the jungle, and Forrest was known for running. Run, Forrest, run was the big thing.
Yeah.
You know, when he was in college, he ran for Alabama. He ran across the nation. And
Stole the hearts of millions.
Yeah, so in this scene, he's a fast runner. Well, he ran so fast that he outran his whole platoon. And then he realizes that he forgets Bubba.
Yep.
So this is actually when he goes into it.
All right, let's see it.
Okay?
This is when he remembers. Oh, I gotta get Bubba.
So he's going back into the...
And they were just ambushed, so they know the enemy's close. Yeah, he's running into the enemy to find him.
And on my way back to find Bubba, well, there was this boy laying on the ground. I couldn't just let him lay there all alone and scared the way he was. So I grabbed him up and run him out of there.
Can you pause it for a second?
Yeah.
So, something interesting, and I love the fact that we're talking about something that most people think of, and when we do military awards, it's so long worded. And when you get a Medal of Honor or you get a Bronze Star, you get something, there's a citation that comes with that explains why you deserve that medal and what you did. And it's very long-winded. It's such an elaborate story that's told. And I love the fact that Forrest Gump, being simple-minded and being a guy who just has an easy way of putting things, he said that his mission at the time, the reason why he was running into enemy lines, into the enemy, was that he wanted to find his best friend Bubba. And he just said in this one scene, and you would look at this and you could elaborate on how heroic this one moment was, where he saw this casualty that was on the ground that was a friend of his. He picked him up while he's getting shot at. He's going to run him out. And all he said was, I saw this boy laying on the ground, and I couldn't leave him there as scared as he was. So I picked him up and ran him out.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people who have done some pretty heroic shit would say the same thing, where you could elaborate on what they did and make this eloquent statement of like, this is the story of, fill in the blank. And all that person would say is, I couldn't just leave him there. So I picked him up and I ran him out.
Yeah.
It's so simple.
Yeah.
And I love that he's simple-minded. So you get to because I think a lot of people in that situation, that's how it's a simple-minded thought. It's like, I can't just leave him here. I know my mission is this guy, but you're my new mission. And I think it's really cool that they portray that in such a simple way. It's like, you watch this as such a heroic feat, but in his mind, it's just, I can't leave him there.
It's such a simple task he was going to find his friend.
And he never thought about
and he's like, oh, well.
It's almost kind of annoying when you see all the other people are like, okay, I'll get you.
I got to get Bubba, though.
Yeah, but it's just to hear it so simply put is like, that's what is going through the minds of most people when they do heroic things.
Yeah.
It's so simple. It's just, I couldn't just leave him there. That's a hard terrain, too, to be doing that stuff in. And if you feel actual dead weight, like true dead weight, that's heavy to pick up.
Somebody else was saying, help me, Forrest, help me.
He just keeps pulling different dudes out.
I started to get scared that I might never find Bubba.
I know my position is danger close. We got Charlie all over this area. I gotta have those fast movers in here now. Over. Lieutenant Dan Coleman's dead. I know he's dead. My whole platoon is wiped out.
The whole platoon is wiped out.
Just leave me here. Get away. Just leave me here. Get out. God, I said leave me here.
Speaking of comms,
Yeah, old school.
Yeah.
Old school.
So, and in this point, Lieutenant Dan, I mean, he basically, all his relatives, to build up to this, all of his relatives that were in war died on the battlefield.
in war, right, yeah.
So we've talked about this in prior fully vetted shows.
for sure.
Like, you have that, okay, this is my time moment.
Yeah, where it's like, if this is how I die, this is how I die.
Yeah, this is me. Like,
I've already accepted it.
When he was talking about in the back of the plane and the rocks are coming up. He's like, this is my moment.
Yeah.
So he feels, even though he's saved, he feels jaded because he's robbed of
Well, and there's also many instances where people have called for fire support on their own position because they know that the enemy is encroaching on them, and they're they're such a casualty that they know this is my last stand. So if I can call for fire on my own position and I can just say, get out of here, we got bombs dropping where I'm at because the enemy's where I'm at. You're trying to get the people that the people as a leader, the people you have, your children, right? If you think about it that way, that you're supposed to be in charge of them. You're the leader. You get them out to safety, and you're calling for fire because he said danger close, which means that if you're going to drop rounds, I'm within 200 meters of danger close is within 200 meters of that round.
Yeah.
And he knows that he's dropping rounds in his own position because that's where the enemy is. And he would rather die from the bombs from above and kill the enemy to save his guys. So you may blow past Lieutenant Dan here, but he's doing a very noble thing. And there's been many instances of that throughout history where people have done the same thing.
and he also just said, I know Coleman's dead. My whole platoon is wiped out.
Yeah, the whole platoon is wiped out. Yeah. And if I don't call for fire on this position, y'all are going to be wiped out too. And
all for naught.
Yeah, and so he's so injured that he's willing to just say, like the rest of his family was. If this is where I die, this is where I die, and I'd rather go out saving you.
Right.
It all goes back being for the boys. Like I would rather save my boys and die here than the rest of us be wiped out.
Jumped up and bit me.
I love the scene where he says something jumped up and bit me.
Yeah.
I love it. Because when adrenaline takes over, a lot of people don't realize they've been shot. And he's still firing. I love that.
Leave the platoon. I told you to leave me there, Gump. Forget about me. Get yourself out.
Yeah, and there's the example. Get yourself out. Forget about me. Get yourself out.
Get out of here.
It may seem ignorant, but that's just great leadership. Great leadership.
Be out of there. Where do you think you're going? I got an airstrike inbound right now. They're gonna nape the whole area.
When he says nape, he means napalm. It's a napalm bomb. My favorite part of that clip is the end of the clip. When you think of how physically taxing it is to pull 3 human beings out of the jungle, and 200 pounds worth of weight each person, and he just got shot in the butt, right? He says something jumped up and bit me, and his mind at the end of that, you could rest easy and just say like, man, I just saved 3 people. I know a napalm bomb's coming in. Like we already have air support coming. So if I go back in there, I'm gonna get bombed. And at the end of the clip, he's just like, I gotta get Bubba. And like I was just saying a minute ago, is one of my friends. He's coming on the show next week, and just like shout out, stay tuned for that. But he's, when I think of somebody in that, if I put myself in those shoes, right, and I think of the one guy that, like, if I knew he was in trouble and I were to go back into a napalm bomb, or if I knew I was going back into the enemy's front, and just again, to reiterate, the beauty of this movie is how simple they make his mind. When you can call it all kinds of things, but he has some sort of mental disability that makes his mind a little bit more simple. And he thinks through issues where, like, my mission is I got to get Bubba. And after all the shit he just did, would be enough to where if he just quit there, no one would give him, everyone would say like, oh man, you went above and beyond the Call of Duty for that moment, right? But his whole goal, the only reason all of them were saved is because his goal was to save Bubba, and they just happened to be along the way. They were just along the trail. And he still went back in to where he knew incoming bombs were coming from. The enemy was close. It was like, I don't really care about what happens to me. I got to get Bubba. And I think a lot of people who have been in situations, Vietnam was one thing, but similar, in combat situations, a lot of people could identify with this moment to know that I would have done anything. If I heard on the radio that my buddy was on the side of the mountain exposed and he was getting shot at, and he was alone, I don't care what it costs me. I'm going in to get him. And it's when it comes to, we talk a lot about transitioning from the military. One of the things that is really hard for people when they transition, right, is that mindset of like, how do you go from loving people like that and having that devotion? Forrest was like, I got to go get Bubba, right? And then you go and you leave all those people. It kind of
back into the world.
Yeah, this kind of personifies like how close people really are in the military. When you sweat and bleed with people, it's a bond. And that's the beauty of political ideology or race or all those things. Like when you're that close with people, it's a bond. Especially in society today, you can't find that bond anywhere else. You can never replace the bond you had where I got to go get Bubba, and I'll risk life and limb going into an airstrike, going into enemy territory. It's something a lot of people, when they watch Forrest Gump, they kind of blow past. They never think of these scenes from the movie. They always think of him running in college and all that stuff. And Jenny and all the emotional and dramatic stuff. Well, they never think about that.
And let's not forget, he got the $1 million wound.
Yeah,
but the Army must keep that because he never saw one nickel from that.
Which I always love. One of my favorite quotes from that is like, something jumped up and bit me. Which is because it's funny because a lot of people get shot in combat and don't realize until an hour later that they took shrapnel or got shot or injured because of the adrenaline.
Pumping.
And when he was just picking bodies out of the jungle, looking for Bubba, his mind was so set on the mission that he just like, when something jumped up and bit him, he didn't care. It was just, it was, I gotta find Bubba.
I heard a quote once that was, a dog in the hunt ain't got no fleas.
Right. Yeah. Because they're so focused on the hunt that they don't notice the itching on their back, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's absolutely, and the body does amazing things. And when you think about it too, like I've picked up dudes way bigger than me in full kit, flak, ammo, magazines, the whole nine, picked them up and struggled to pick them up, right? And obviously this is a Hollywood tale, so he threw them over his back like it was no problem. But picking up a limp noodle that weighs 220 pounds is that's a heavy limp noodle. And they don't help you. They're not like trying to push themselves up.
That's not some angel hair pasta. Yeah,
No, it's not no angel hair. That's linguine, man. I mean, imagine if Matt Dodge by himself just slick. Let's picture a naked Matt Dodge.
No, I don't.
And he's not going to help you
Let's
get him
go
up.
back to that French metal.
That's a hard dude to pick up. But if you think about all that ammo, all the equipment, his body weight.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And Forrest adrenaline was kicking so hard that he was just throwing him over his back, and that's what happens. I mean, you've heard of people picking up cars off of
cars
people.
off of kids.
Yeah, cars off of kids. I mean, adrenaline. One of the coolest things about studying combat and understanding the mindset that goes into to combat and different conflicts is the physiological aspect of it and what the body can do in that situation. And it seems like a Hollywood tale, but it's not very far-fetched that Forrest could pick 3 dudes out of a jungle and run them out. And it's your body, your mind is the only thing that stops your body from doing things. And when your mind is set on a goal, I mean, you can do anything. It's pretty cool.
We watched one clip, but it didn't capture the whole
Experience.
moment.
Yeah,
because there's so much more. This movie is such an iconic movie to begin with. We'll probably have to do something with it.
Yeah, we could do a series on just Forrest Gump.
Just real quick, and we don't even have to react to it. It's just unless you want to, but I just want to just play it because it's meaningful.
Yeah.
Okay, Forrest. Okay. No, it'll be all right.
It's a bad thing. It was when you're the casualty and you see your buddy's face the way Forrest's face is, you know it's bad. Yeah.
And we all know he was a simple man.
His eyes right here.
When you hear those jets, man, they're coming.
Sorry, we got a little glitch there.
If I'd have known this was going to be the last time me and Bubba was going to talk, I'd have thought of something better to say. Hey, Bubba.
I mean, you break that, you unpack that sentence, and it's.
Why did this happen? Got shot. Then Bubba said something I won't ever forget. I want to go home. Bubba was my best good friend. And even I know that ain't something you can find just around the corner. Bubba was going to be a shrimp and boat captain, but instead he died right there by that river in Vietnam.
Just it's so good.
Yeah.
Jordan, this next movie is I've only seen this once, maybe twice. It's Hacksaw Ridge.
Yeah.
Basically, the backstory of this is that he's a Christian man, doesn't want to pick up arms and actually shoot or kill anyone.
Yeah.
But
in the military, which is
he's
very
in the military,
strange,
which
right?
is hard.
Yeah.
So his main thing, what he's known for, and I believe this is a true story. We'll look it up in a minute.
It is a true story.
Yeah.
Yep. It
Is
is.
that he saved pretty much.
I've actually been to Hacksaw Ridge in Japan.
And saved all these people.
Yeah.
And brought them back, and I mean, it was just incredible what he's gone through.
I've been to the base of the cliff, which is really cool to see. When it's not as big as the movies make it portrayed as, like you're climbing Everest, but at the same time, like when you see the movie and you go to the actual place where it took place, it's amazing to see the climbing up that, passing people down that, and you kind of picture, if you, especially, I saw the movie prior to going there, and when I went there, knowing what happened in the movie and knowing that it's a true story, and then when you see the real place, it's like, man, if you picture in real time while you're looking at it what happened, it was like,
and
it's amazing.
And the clip that I picked because for this is when he saves the Japanese soldier.
Yeah.
And to me, it just shows his belief in humanity.
It's the morals. This looks so much like Bear Grylls.
He does.
He does look like Bear Grylls. Oh, shit. Been a bigger explosion than that for sure. Jeez.
Such an intense scene.
Dude, you're like you're blending into a wall. Japanese were notorious for tunnels. So he's in their home. He's in like the hornet's nest at that point. This is really cool. See how surprised he is, right?
Yeah.
That's a cool scene.
Yeah, and what I got out of that scene is not only, back rewatching it, at first I thought it was more or less the humanity of human beings together.
Right.
But more or less like you got two soldiers that are fighting for what they thought was a good cause for their side.
Everybody is the
and
good
they
guy.
meet and they're like, okay, we're just the same people. We're just fighting
Yep.
on different sides. And it was kind of like, I don't know. That's where I got.
Well, it's just like human life, right? Let's simplify it to driving on the roads in Carteret County, right? Where you get cut off by a guy and now you're tailing the guy and he's mad at you. Everyone's throwing fingers and everyone's mad. But you have to realize that, like, that's a human being with kids and a family. And if you were to step back and look into his life, and you were to like have a little GoPro that could follow him, after your interaction with another human being, they get back to their house, they pull in their driveway, they go inside, their kids greet them, they get hugs, they pet the dog, start cooking dinner. And you have to realize that, like, that's just another human being with a family and a wife and a household, and they have their own dynamic and they have their own traditions and they do their own thing. And your interaction with this person may have been because they cut you off on the road, they're tailgating you, they're 6 inches off your bumper, everyone's asshole, fuck you, and everyone's so angry at each other. But no one takes a minute to think of like, this is another human being and they're suffering. Because you engage with another person, even in your daily life, even as civilians, we do it on a daily basis. We engage with people and we have no idea what they're going through in their own life. When I go home, I personally am going to go home to a crying baby and a 3-year-old that needs everything and a wife that needs help. And
all I want is Jameson.
Yeah, and after coming home from work or after doing a hard day's task, all I want to do is chill, but you can't because you have responsibilities and people's lives are hard even in their personal life. And you're making it even harder by not only just flicking them off on the road, but by trying to kill them in combat, right?
Yeah.
It's everybody's trying to get home, but everyone has some just cause they're fighting for. Now, granted,
every time I tailgate somebody now, it's going to be thinking of Hacksaw Ridge.
Yeah, but you just have to think like
Jordan.
Is he Japanese?
But no, but that's something that comes with being in the military and seeing some of these things firsthand is like you start to see people for like he's just like me. Now, granted, in certain situations, you can think back and you look at like the German army who was controlled by Adolf Hitler, who was murdering millions of Jews and doing these atrocities, and then we stepped in and we fought them. You can see good and bad.
Right.
It's pretty easy to see good guys, bad guys. It's pretty easy to see what the Taliban was doing to regular old citizens in the mountains of Afghanistan. And you can see that like good guys were trying to do their best. Now, granted, I don't know what governments and you have to separate the big bodies of people, and you have to look at the people doing the work. These people doing the work, the guys in the trenches, the guys in the tunnels, the guys that are corpsmen, that are just medics, that are trying to save lives, they're going to look at you when they see you as another human being. That's why it takes such a toll on people to take a life. When you take a life, it really hits home because when you think of that life, you start to think of it as your own. Mm-hmm. Where it's like, that was somebody's father, that was somebody's husband, that was somebody's son, that was somebody's grandchild. And you start to replay images of their personal, you may not have known their personal life, but you replay those images in your head because when you go home to your kids, you think of the guy who you killed, and you picture him going home to his kids, but he can't because you killed him. You
give them a scenario of how their life would be.
You start to kind of personify what you think their life was like in your mind because you live your life and that was just a human being. And granted, he may have been doing something wrong. He may have been a bad person fighting for a bad cause, but who's the judge of that?
Right.
Who's the judge of who's the right cause or not?
And I think that's what I was alluding to when he's sitting there looking at the Japanese soldier.
But the beauty of it is that even if you're fighting for the bad cause, let's just say I know definitively I'm the good guy. Even if the whole world agreed, like Jordan's the good guy, you're the bad guy, and you're injured, and I help you, that just drives home the fact that I'm the good guy.
Yeah.
Because you're my enemy. 5 seconds ago, I would have been killing you. But I see you vulnerable in this moment where you're in your home. You're in this tunnel, and you're vulnerable, and you're bleeding, and you're in pain. And I have morphine, and I have bandages. And I have the opportunity. You're not going to hurt me because you have no weapon. You're vulnerable. Yeah. You're dying. And I can just have a moment with you where I'm letting you know that he's letting him know he's the good guy. Because I have not seen or heard, and listen, movies aside, I've read a lot of books and studied a lot of military and combat knowledge. There's not a lot of instances where the enemy has helped us. But there's a lot of instances where we've helped the enemy. We've said
good guys.
And yes, in a lot of ways we are, because we have a moral framework that drives our path. That's why we win wars. We don't win wars because our president or our congressmen tell us to do things that make us win wars. We win wars because of American citizens. American citizens are what drives America. You know what I mean? Like our ideals and our moral framework and our passions for helping others and freedom and community and family, that's what wins, right? And in this situation, he's like, this guy's not going to shoot me, but he's in pain and I have morphine. And I'm going to take a second and say, shh, I have more. This is morphine. We don't even speak the same language. It's such a cool moment in the movie because when he feels the morphine hit his bloodstream and the pain subsides, he's like, holy shit, this guy's helping me.
Yeah.
Why? And it's almost too confusing because you're like, why would you help me? We're fighting each other. And it's a moment where they're looking face to face, arm to arm. I mean, they're touching. It's not very often you touch your enemy. And he's in a moment where the enemy is realizing that, holy shit, these are the good guys. Because not only are they fighting us, they're willing to help us. Why is that?
And mind you, he just passed someone that hung himself because he didn't want to be captured.
And this guy was fighting to the death. And the Asian culture is amazing with that. They will fight to the death. They're very kamikaze pilots. Those suicide bombers. I mean, it's a very I'm willing to die for my cause type of thing. Where Americans aren't willing to die. They will fight till the death because they're not willing to just roll over and die. They will fight to the death. These people will use their own bodies as bombs to kill for their cause. But when you see morality, when morality really hits you and you have somebody that literally looks at you and says, I'm here to help you, but I'm your enemy, it's it's such a psychological mind fuck, right? Where you're like, I would have killed you if I had a weapon, but you're going to give me morphine instead of killing me.
Yeah.
It's like, what a weird dynamic,
I don't
right?
know, that scene there just makes me want to go back and watch the movie.
Yeah,
again.
it's just such a weird dynamic where it's like, if you didn't give me that morphine, I would have killed you. But that morphine was like the sign of peace of like, I understand you're going to die, and I'm your enemy who would have killed you. But this guy was this conscientious objector where he's a non-combatant. He didn't want rifles. He just wanted to save lives. And I think even if you look into the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, we've saved a lot of people we've hurt. Because if you're not dead and you're no longer a threat, I'm going to help you. It's what we do. It's being better. It's being what was the saying? Be the bigger man. Mm-hmm. You're shooting at me, so obviously I'm gonna shoot. I'm not gonna die. So if it's between you and me, it's gonna be me. But if you're no longer a threat and you're injured, I'm gonna help you.
It's like nobody likes to win by forfeit.
Yeah,
right,
it's like I'm not just gonna like pop you in the head. That's a war crime. You know, he's a defenseless person at this point, and I think it's really cool that this movie had a moment where they did that. It's really cool that this movie decided to show the duality of man, right? Where you had a moment where it was two human beings in this situation and one person showed mercy on another. It's especially as, it's funny too, as in this movie portrays that this guy was a Christian, right? And he showed mercy as he was taught that he was shown mercy on, right? If I've been given mercy, then I need to give mercy on my enemy. And once the enemy is non-combatant, I can no longer be a warrior, I need to be a savior, right? And there's this really cool dynamic between being a warrior and a savior. I think it's pretty cool. And a lot of times it happens in the Middle East, even with civilians, you get into a firefight, and civilians get injured, and once the threat is neutralized, the priority is not even your own guy. Your own guys who are injured could say like, I'm good, man, I'm good, I'll be fine. They will self-treat and patch their own wounds and then call a burden for civilians. And it's such a selfless... What I love about veterans is a lot of times they're such selfless individuals. They're just... I would rather you get help than me because I can handle what I'm going through. And it's a really cool thing to see portrayed in a movie where he's terrified, right? He's in a tunnel with a bunch of Japanese soldiers, and he'd rather die while treating one of them than die saving himself. It's pretty cool.
That's good. This is fun. I had a good time with this one.
Yeah, so I've got a guest coming next week, so we're going to get back into doing some interviews. I love doing the movie stuff because movies, as much as Hollywood portrays the military in a certain way, and obviously when you saw Forrest Gump and the napalm bombs were going off behind him, right? And it's like I know, like there's a blast that goes off. He'd have been blown over. He was so close, but
And
it's
the heat.
But it's like, forget that. It's like, let's talk about the heroicism, because even if we weren't there to experience these things, it kind of portrays the act that's happening. And even if it's this, like Hollywood blown up, portrayal of what happened.
It's Hollywood.
It's still
that's what we expect.
But if you think of somebody running out of the woods with bombs going off to save somebody, that's happened before, right? So we have to visualize it somehow. We just make it more entertaining for people that haven't been there to see it. And I love doing these reactions because it's cool to spark memories or conversation or things that, I mean, hell, I've seen Forrest Gump probably 30 times. I've never thought about his mindset when it comes to
it's kind of like
those
a breakdown
things.
of
I've
individuals.
never thought of those things. So I love doing breakdowns because it makes me think of my own experiences and my own knowledge and things that I know of and stories of the past that like kind of get lost in Hollywood because people just see movies and they think of the movie as what it is, but no one breaks down from the perspective of someone that may have seen that stuff or knows about it or anything like that, and they don't think of what that scene really meant for the viewer to realize.
Right.
Some people just kind of glance over it.
And congratulations on the new baby.
Thank you.
So,
That's why if I have bags under my eyes, and I can't talk shit because my wife probably has double bags under her eyes, so I get the most sleep in the house.
stop simping.
So.
The restaurant never closes.
No, dude, the restaurant's always open. It's like Waffle House at my house, man. If you want hash browns at 3 a.m., you just ask. Except she's not smoking a cigarette, ashing into your hash browns.
We need to have an episode with Miss Lauren on the show.
Oh, that would be fun.
So one thing that's interesting, and it's actually really funny as far as like military community or military culture is involved, is the wives, right? We always make fun of wives because some military wives take it way too far. It's like, my husband's a staff sergeant, and you should respect me because of what my husband does. And people are like, all right, chill,
You ain't the
yeah,
staff sergeant.
it's like chill. You're not doing that shit. But I do have a really big appreciation for military wives because
I think that would be a great episode.
I know what I've put my wife through. I know the phone calls I've made to her, and then after click, I can imagine what went through her mind, right? After we hung up, and then I wouldn't talk to her for 2 months.
Well, let's save that for
So,
it.
yeah.
That's going to be a good
I think that would be an
episode.
awesome
That's something to
episode.
talk
If we
about.
can find somebody, and what I would love to do is I would love to find people who have been on before, or maybe their wives can come on. We can have like a big round table with military wives, and we can talk through the experiences we've already talked about, but from their perspective, which would be kind of cool. Where I got a phone call from Hal, and Hal was telling me this and that, and then when he hung up, I didn't talk to him for 30 days. And my mind was in this place, or I thought he was doing this. In reality, he was doing this, and whatever. That would be a really interesting episode because...
Yeah, so guys, if you want to see something like that, leave a comment down below.
Yeah.
I think that would be a good way to get that. So you want to take us home?
Yeah, so I obviously we're back at it. So it'd be huge if you like the video. Subscribe to Small Town Big Sound. We're going to keep dropping videos. I've got a guest coming on next week, which I've been waiting for a long time. I've been trying to talk him into doing a podcast since the inception of Fully Vetted Show. So finally got him. Next week should be a great show. So stay tuned for that.
Persistence wears down resistance.
Yeah, I just kind of kept hammering him, and I broke him down enough to where he's finally like, all right, let's do it. But to be honest, the comment section is great because if you have an idea for a show, we'd love to hear you know,
Or if you want to correct Jordan.
yeah, yeah, please. I love it. Haze me in the comments.
Hey, that's what we're here for.
If that can be the new tagline of like haze Jordan in the comments, it's not a Sherman, it's a Bradley. It's not a Sherman, please, I would love that. But at the same time, ideas of, because every veteran had certain experiences, I would love to hear. If you had something you want to just put a topic on and talk about, I'd love to do it from my limited knowledge. But other than that, stay tuned to the channel. Check out Small Town Big Sound. Subscribe to the channel, and we will see you next week, next Thursday, I think. Yep. We should. So following that, we'll have an interview with my buddy Wade, who was a machine gunner in the Marine Corps. Really awesome dude. It should be really good. He's got a great perspective. Started a business after leaving the military. Went through the same thing I went through. So we'll have a lot of things to hit on that I think will hit home for a lot of veterans. So
Cool
I
deal.
think it'll be cool.
Thank you guys so much. I guess we'll see you guys
See you on the next one.
episode.
We'll do the mat. Peace.